Let's talk about the shamanic community. My name is John Moore, and I am a shamanic teacher and practitioner from the state of Maine. Today, I want to talk to you about the shamanic community, meaning the community of people who practice shamanism, and how important that is, and what that looks like. And obviously, I'm going to give you my perspective because I don't have anybody else's perspective. But I'll start with a short story about how I got into shamanism. I promise it will be very short. I'm not trying to bore you with my personal life details, but it's an important illustration of the importance, at least to me, of the shamanic community. Now, I do want to say that this may be different in indigenous cultures. There may be less of a community and more of individuals passing shamanic training down either through a line of ancestry or through some sort of initiation system or that sort of thing, where they don't have a large just community of shamanic healers and practitioners. In the place where I live, there are people who practice shamanism as their form of spirituality who are not necessarily out there as shamanic healers and practitioners. I guess they are practitioners because they're practicing, but they don't have a shingle hung out. They don't work for other people. They just do that. And they're still a really important part of the community that I'm a part of. So here's my short personal story. So when I first got the message from Spirit that I was to learn shamanism, my original thought was, because I didn't know anything about shamanism other than the word, I didn't know what shamans were, what they did, anything about it. I just got this clear message from Spirit, go learn shamanism. My initial thought was, I don't know anything about this. My second thought was, how's that going to happen? I don't live in Siberia, Mongolia, or Peru. And how am I going to find a teacher? How am I going to learn shamanism? That sort of thing. As it turns out, the state of Maine has a vibrant shamanic community. There are some amazing teachers here. I found my teacher here. I connected with lots of other practitioners here. I still do a lot of work with other practitioners here. So obviously, the community was a really important part of my learning. And also, it's a really important part of my practice. And going forward, it's really important as well. I can tell you that I have missed, one of the biggest things I've missed through the pandemic has been in-person gatherings. We're starting to get back to that with some outdoor events and things like that. And, it'll be good. It'll be good to get back. So, my understanding of the shamanic community is that it is very different depending upon what. So I'm just going to talk about the United States, for example, because that's where I live, and I don't want to talk about places that I don't know anything about. So that it is very different regionally and from state to state. So for some reason, shamanism, really big, really large community in Maine. I think part of that comes from life in Maine being so close to nature. We have very small cities. Most people live in rural or suburban areas, and the rural areas are really rural. I'm not just talking about farm area. I'm talking about large tracts of forest and that sort of thing. And so a lot of people make their living from working in nature through agriculture, through through fishing, all of these pursuits. Even our tourist industry, which is huge, it's a huge part of our income here, is involved with things like hiking, skiing, camping, water sports, all that outdoor stuff. So people living in Maine have a really strong connection with nature. And if I think probably everybody around the world has heard of LL Bean, which is, the large outdoor company. They sell boots, and now they sell everything, but boots and jackets and things like that, outdoor outfitter. They are, they're headquartered in Freeport, Maine, not really far, about 40 minutes away from where I am at the moment. And they have their big flagship store there, which for a long time was the only store. For a while, Maine had blue laws in which large stores could not open on Sundays. And for, I don't know the history behind this. For some reason, the only exception to that was the LL Bean flagship store in Freeport, Maine, which was up until recently open 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. You could go at 3 in the morning on Christmas and shop for gifts, and trust me, people did. So anyway, Maine has a real connection with the outdoors, and I think, and not that other states don't, but I do see, I do see shamanic communities cropping up in other areas where people are really much more connected to nature. That's a big part of shamanic life, is connection to nature, connection to spirit, connection to community. So that is, I think, one of the reasons why shamanism has grown up so much in this area. Another is that Maine has a very interesting history of being maybe a little anti-authoritarian, for lack of a better term. We actually declared war on, or not exactly, but we went to war with a sovereign country at one point, the state. We actually sent militia to the border of Canada when it was part of the UK. And while there were as far as I know, no shots fired and no casualties, we were actually getting ready to do war over territory. I'm just imagining like my neighbors going out and starting a war with England back then. So very, very independent, very self-reliant, and that is, but also very community focused, right? We gather a lot. There are lots of gatherings in Maine of every sort you can imagine. Particularly when the weather gets nice. We're coming in, we are in spring now, even though it was below freezing this morning. It's going to be 60 degrees Fahrenheit today, which is be very nice to get outdoors. We gather a lot. We have fairs, and we have all kinds of events, and in the shamanic community we have drum circles and journey circles and all kinds of stuff going on. So while there is this idea of community coming together, which is a very divine feminine aspect, there's also this we don't trust people in charge hierarchy thing, which is very patriarchal. I'm not going to say divine masculine, because it's not. Patriarchy is not divine masculine. It is immature masculine. I probably have videos about that, but I will do more about divine masculine, divine feminine going forward. It's a topic that I'm particularly interested in. So let's talk about how important community is to shamanic practice. You can practice completely on your own. You can go live in a hut in the woods somewhere and practice shamanism on your own, and you don't ever need to come into contact with another human being. That being said, there is a great deal of benefit that comes from journeying together and working on projects together and doing things. And so there are shamanic people that gather even virtually for large-scale projects, very frequently to respond to things like natural disasters, or there are people who go out and document indigenous sites that help document, photograph and document and protect indigenous sites that may not even be part of that indigenous culture, but because we understand how important it is to preserve these cultures, that we have so much still to learn from, that there are organizations and things out there of people who practice shamanism who do things like that, and I think that's fantastic. Stepping out into the community. Personally, I would like to see shamanism take a more front and center role in community life, it's a little bit challenging. We still live in I still live in a world where the majority of people consider this a Judeo-Christian country, even though it was founded on the principle of religious freedom and spiritual freedom. And so many people, from that perspective, look at shamanism as evil devil worship and that sort of thing. And that's just completely out of ignorance and not understanding what it actually is that we're doing, and that nothing we're doing is actually antithetical to anybody's religion. I know lots of shamanic practitioners who identify as Christian or Jewish or just about anything else you can think of. Shamanism is not a religion. It is a set of spiritual tools. It is a way of viewing the world that involves spirit. It is, but there's no dogma, doctrine, clergy, anything like that out there. So that being said, community is extremely important. I am personally working on projects to help bring more of the shamanic community that is dispersed around the world together to share, to grow, to support each other, but also to bring the practice of shamanism a little bit into the limelight. And the reason for that is, and this is not to say I'm not prescribing shamanism for anyone, and definitely not for everyone, but it offers tools for healing that I think are important in today's world, and that I personally have benefited from and now share through my clients and my students, and I'm looking for ways to share those out into the community. You will hear more about that very soon, I'm sure. I hope this is helpful. Please subscribe to my channel. I love it when you do that. Drop a comment down below and like this video, and I will talk to you real soon.